speaker is Josh McCoy. Josh is the leader of the Sempo City's KC Search Marketing Conference. He has written for Search Engine Watch and contributes to Search Engine Journal. He has also been a speaker on the National Front at Search Engine Strategies, ClickZ Live, Digital Summit, Integrated Marketing Summit, the Sempo Forum, and local associations such as the Kansas City Data-Driven Marketing Association. Within Trezolo, Josh guides the digital marketing team in strategy, campaign direction, deployment, and through advanced tracking and analytical data collection. Please say hello to Josh.
Test. So, thank you for the introduction. I know everyone's had a long day of absorbing a lot of great information. Hopefully you guys are excited about learning a little bit about schema. Some of you probably do know about schema. Hopefully you'll pick up a few tips. If you don't, get ready for all the opportunities I'm going to get ready to talk about. I absolutely love getting the chance to come out and speak whenever I have the opportunity. It's great in this city. I'm very proud of this city, the web community over the last 10 to 20 years, from the search marketing community, digital marketing community, designers, developers, how we all come together. And it's great to have events like this that we can come educate each other as well as network. So very excited to be here. I just noticed about 10 minutes ago when I was watching this that every time I present, I have a black jacket on and a white shirt, which this morning, ironically, I did have that before I spilled a whole cup of coffee on it. So changing things up a little bit today. I didn't get burned, it's fine. Today we're going to talk about schema, and I want to do a brief walkthrough of what schema is, the history behind schema, where we've come in the last 10 years, what webmasters today need to know in order to implement schema, structured data markup on your site, as well as looking at where schema is headed, and how to deploy that on your site, whether you're choosing to do it in a manual form or if you're wanting to use WordPress plugins to help you out. So what is schema? I tried to make this in layman's terms as much as I possibly could. We are trying to tell search engines exactly what our content is about on our site. I like to keep it short and say we have to add context to our content. Search engines are working today to try to find out exactly what your content is to best fit that result that they're providing out there to a searcher. So we need to tell search engines what our data means, not just what it says. So I wanted to add this slide in here. It's a little wonky in the formatting. Because over the last 10 years, I've been confused as I hear other people in the digital community talk about schema, structured data, microdata, rich snippets, rich results, and it seems like everybody says that's schema. Well, schema and structured data are basically the same thing. When we're talking about schema, we're thinking about the data vocabulary, schema.org, the site that runs it all, basically like the Bible of schema. And the structured data is how we deploy that schema. That's how we define our item types and our item properties that we're going to walk through here in a little bit. Microdata is something, it's an element, it's a type of structured data that you can use on the site. We're going to talk about that, have a couple examples, as well as JSON-LD, the preferred format that Google likes to see nowadays. Also, when I talk about search engines, I'm very Google-centric because of their 80% search share. So yeah, I mean Bing too, but I talk about Google quite a bit because they are the leader in search market share. Rich snippets. So this is where I used to get confused because people would say, do you have rich snippets on your site? Rich snippets, which are now called rich results, are actually what Google rewards us with. What we see out there in search results. Those star ratings, those recipe cards, and we're going to go through a lot of examples here in a little bit. So I used to get confused when I hear all these words used interchangeably because you don't have rich snippets on your site. So when you're talking about this in the future, to best educate ourselves and reduce confusion, we know what to call these terms now and how they work together. So the history of schema. We're about 8-9 years into schema. Back in 2011, Google, Yahoo, Bing, and the Index, Russia's search engine, came together in a collaboration to create a set of data vocabulary that would be used on sites to help organize content and tell search engines what the content was about. And structured data markup is what I call the way to provide your content to a search engine in the way that they can most easily digest. So we moved from 2011, and we're going to go through some of the change in search engine result pages here in a little bit. But some of the big landmarks were moving away from using RDFA and microdata to utilize structured data, and Google coming out and saying that they would allow us to use JavaScript notation method with JSON LD. And then in 2017, they said this is the preferred format. So most people are using JSON LD nowadays. In the last few years, Google has stepped out and offered a lot of tools that will help webmasters to correctly implement schema on their sites and structured data. So they rolled out in 2017 the structured data testing tool. They also have the markup helper that we're going to walk through. So it is painfully easy, if you're not that great at coding, to go in and actually mark up the content of your site to let Google understand what your site is all about. So as we walk through history and we start to think about what search result pages looked like years ago, most of you would remember back in 2008, 9, 10, you would look at a search result page and you could tell. Back then they had that right side rail of ads, then the left side was all organic results. Looked pretty boring, just a bunch of listings, and it looked like what was delivered to you was explicitly what was keywords on those pages. Very much keyword driven. As we move through time, we're going to see how it changes to intent. So in 2012, we had the invention of the knowledge graph. So we went from just thinking about giving people organic results to providing rich content. So when I type in lasagna, hope you guys aren't hungry already from lunch, I type in lasagna and I get nutritional facts. I also get how-to videos. I get recipes, and I get ratings of different recipes out there. Getting a much richer experience, and they're pulling data from several different sources, not just simply from websites based on their keywords. We move a little further through in 2013, and we see Google Hummingbird. So this is the renaming and the revamping of Google's algorithm. And what they're trying to do is, I noted they are real-world entities and their relationships to one another. This is the algorithm starting to become smarter at understanding how people search, and not just on the keyword, but the intent. So the example of my intent here is if I'm sitting in downtown Kansas City, Missouri, and I type in Italian, what they've seen over time when people do that and what they actually click on is they're looking for Italian restaurants to go to. If this would have been 2006, 2007, years ago, and I type in Italian, from down there, I would probably get an Italian flag or a site that comes up that talks about the Italian language. So Google's getting smarter over the years. They're trying to understand content on the site and feed it based on the intent of the searcher. Then we move forward to 2016 with Google Rank Rank. This is where it's strictly artificial intelligence. It is the machine learning and watching this intent over time, learning to provide better search results time and time again. So it's taking the Italian that we had in my last example based on location, as well as personalization, what I've been searching for in the past, and then also looking at that keyword that I'm searching for. So you can see it all coming together. And ultimately, over the years, you can see that Google is trying to provide the perfect search result for you, the individual user. So how can we help search engines provide the best search results? This is done through structured data markup. So get very familiar with schema.org if you're not right now. Schema.org, as I had mentioned, was the mutual effort of Google, Yahoo, Bing, and the index coming together. And this is where you go to find every type of item type and item property that you can use in your data. Now, years ago, when I say years ago, 2011, 2012, when they came out with this, you really didn't have too many offerings. I didn't get that excited when this came out because I was like, damn, I don't have a recipe site, I don't have a movie site, so I can't really use some of these that have been common over the years. But there are a few that are pretty powerful now that we can walk through that I've used in the past that have worked well to create those rich results, expanded results, and organic search engine result page listings. When you walk through schema.org, there's a hierarchical structure to it. You will have the basic, everything starts off, it's a thing, it's a place, it's a person. And then you come down to the type. You can have a type, whether it's a text or URL, or if it's a movie, for example, and then you walk down to the actual properties. So this is an example of, and this is a really long page, but this is an example of all the different item properties for a local business. So it's not just the address, the phone number, it's everything from currencies accepted, open hours, and a lot of data. When we're marking this up, we make it painfully simple for Google to understand everything about our location because of the structured data we're using. So I'm going to get to the JSON LD here in a second, but it's a little easier, I think, to understand this first when you use a microdata example. So the hierarchical structure, you have to have an item scope, an item type, and an item property. So think of the item scope as being the container that says, all right, we're going to talk about a set of item types and item properties. So you have to have your item scope. And this is really great because I like this example that they actually use on the schema.org site with avatar. Because using structured data makes it so clear about what type of avatar you're talking about. You know, if Google walked in, they might not understand at first if this is a site about creating a personal avatar versus the actual movie that's out there. So that's the example of item scope. Now we go down to item type. So we can see we start off with our item scope, then we have our item type. We're talking about Avatar the movie. So every single item type will reference the URL that it comes from over on schema.org. So of course with this movie, we're going to reference schema.org/movie. Stepping further now, we have our item scope, we have our item type, now we have our item properties. And you can have several within an item type. So where we're telling them that we're talking about a movie, now we're telling them who the director of this movie is, the genre of this movie, and a link to the actual trailer of it. So I'm going to swap examples here real quick, not to confuse anybody. Up here on the left is the example of microdata. This is for an event, for a basketball game that's happening. And you can see the event of the game, the location of the game, when it starts, the address and all that good stuff. Then we can convert that from microdata over to the preferred format, which is JSON LD. So there's some similarities. It's going to look different, of course. Instead of having it say item property, you're just going to have it in parentheses, and you're going to have the app type up there. But this is the preferred format, as said by Google. As with anything, we have to play by the rules. So my history is deeply rooted in SEO. And for those of you out there that play in that world, you have to play by the rules or Google will squash you. You will be filtered for results and you will be penalized. So it pertains to the rules of schema. It's very similar to that of how we have to play in the SEO world. Gone are the days of trying to spam people and provide misleading information. Not to say that I was a black hat or like that. But we have to think about being resourceful and being helpful to the searcher. So it's pretty straightforward and it's kind of common sense, but they lay out a lot of rules for your structured data. So you can't be misleading. You can't try to provide outdated information. You want to have good quality content. Just the same thing when you think about the content you're putting on your site. I'm trying to be resourceful, I'm trying to be helpful. That's what I'm going to do in my structured data. I want to make sure that I am marking up my content with the most applicable item properties, like we were just talking about, that I possibly can. If we're doing something like the example here, this could result in us not getting that rich result. If we're a woodworking site and we label the instructions as recipes, that's kind of a wild, wacky, far-off example, but just to show you, you can be completely off, and now you're doing your worst. You're confusing the search engine. So it could result in you not getting that rich snippet. Completeness. When we go through the testing tool here a little bit, you'll see in a couple examples how people kind of go halfway down the road of providing their item properties. And for some of the different item types out there, you have to have a specific set of item properties, or you will not have a rich result in search results. So location, knowing when to mark up your content. There's an example in here, but you have to think about, if I'm trying to mark it up and say the topic is the 10 best ideas for cooking turkey, and it links off to other pages about that, we want to be marking up the individual piece of content to talk about the author, the topic, and other item properties. If this is just a summary page, You can't really do that. You shouldn't do that unless I've got an example of event summaries that you can do that. Typically, you see that in events. So, images. This is one that stood out to me that I wanted to mention because just as I talked about being relevant and being specific, you have to think about if you're going to mark up an image, it has to go along with those other item properties that you're talking about. Google will see that and say, okay, wait, you're trying to rush through it, and this doesn't match up, so we won't show this together. Another thing, putting my SEO hat back on, if you're going to try to mark up your image URLs, make sure you don't have that image folder in your robots text file. It needs to be crawlable, indexable image content. So, why do we use it? As I said, I come from an SEO background, so I'm obsessed with how you show up in search results. It is often so tough for us to show up on that first page. And there's a lot out there, and increasingly, there's more stuff out there that we have to compete with as time goes on. So we think back to those boring search results of yesteryear having the right rail of ads and the left side of organic search. And then we moved a couple years forward, 2010-ish, and had the image ban and the video ban. And then we get to today where we have map packs, instant answers, suggestions, as well as our organic and paid ads. There's a lot going on out there. We have to stand out and hopefully have those rich results available so we can beef up our real estate on the first page and entice that click from the user. So as it relates to paid search, social media advertising, organic search, it is very competitive out there. Search specifically, it's not as easy as it was 10 years ago. It seems like everybody's out there getting smart at how to show up on that first page. But one thing is interesting with schema usage, with structured data usage, is there's not a lot of people using it. So interestingly, 65% of keywords, or 65% of search engine results are showing at least one rich result. I keep wanting to say rich snippets, they're called rich results now. I keep want to call it, so rich results showing up 65% of the time, but only 0.3% of sites out there on the web are actually using structured data markup on their site. So very interesting and exciting, but there's actually something out there that's not absolutely saturated. So a couple different types of rich results that we see because of the use of schema. One of these is a knowledge graph, and I should have said this a little further back. If you implement your schema structured data, it's not a guarantee you're going to get one of these rich results and I'll walk through, but it is a very good way to get it. Then again, if you implement it incorrectly, you've just hurt yourself and kept yourself from having a rich result. But these are the types of schema structured data used that will get these types of rich results. So this is the knowledge graph here. This is a great way, especially for large corporations, companies, when you have a branded search, to tell a whole lot to a user before they even walk into the site. You can see here, we can pull information that shows the customer service number, where it's headquartered, the CEO, stock information. Another thing, you can wrap schema around your social profiles links on your site, and then get those to show up over there under the profile section. So a very expanded area for you to show up. And you have to think about, you even compete on your brand sometimes. You can have ads from your competitors that are showing up. So if you can build that knowledge graph to be very large and have a great presence over there, it's one step ahead of your competitors. I put the link here too. There are a few other things that's needed outside of schema to really beef this up. And I have that in the link there. There's a few other things to do. So the schema does get you along. So another common one I'm sure everyone has seen before is on the e-commerce front with the product offer, structured data markup. And what's great about this is we can already educate our prospective customers about those product details before they even walk into the site. We're driving more qualified traffic to the site. And so for my example here, if we're searching for a Pullman sleeping bag, we have Amazon's result, we have Walmart's result that actually has additional schema used, such as the price and the availability of it that is in stock. And look at the difference of that presentation and how that stands out versus a Dick's Sporting Goods that's not using that. Like I said, there's a lot going on this page, search result pages these days, and this definitely helps it to stand out. Event schema. So Google has a rich result area that they have up there at the top, but we have to think about the organic listings that are showing up. So Songkick may have had some listings out to Google's rich result area up there, but we can see that Ticketmaster looks a little bland and vanilla up there above them, and the Songkick site actually has individual events showing as rich results because of the use of event structured data markup. This is great because, again, we're just like we were educating someone about our products on our site. They don't even have to go into the home page or a specific Kansas City page. They can already go straight to that performer. So a great way of sending someone into your site and reducing the amount of clicks to get them to the content that they're trying to get to. Location schema. So typically people say, oh, I've got a Google My Business local listing, I'm good. It's not that way anymore. Yes, you do want to have a My Business local listing, but we have to think about when there's a branded search and we have that knowledge graph style card that shows up. And I'll use our company as a bad example, I guess. I'm going to throw myself under the bus. We have no address, hours, phone showing up. We do have a Google My Business listing, but we don't have it marked up on our site. So it's hard for Google to associate what our location truly is. So there's a big question mark there. And then the wonderful Boulevard Brewing Company. We can see that they're doing a great job of this. All this information before you can go into the Boulevard site. So I just want to call them. You know, I don't want to walk through the site. So it's very helpful for someone that's doing a branded search. Web page schema, or what's called as the site links search box. This is a markup placed on the home page of your website. Now, to have this and have this operate, you have to have an internal search function on your site because you're tying that schema to your query parameter. Usually it's like Q equals whatever someone's searching. This allows you to have the site link search box pop up typically with your branded searches. And again, a great way for someone who doesn't necessarily need to walk to the home page. They know exactly where they want to go. We're reducing clicks and sending them straight to search result pages internally on your site. Breadcrumb schema. This is something I'm sure you guys have all seen before too. I call this the second, third, and fourth chance of getting a click into your site. So by utilizing breadcrumb schema markup on your breadcrumb navigation within your site, which I suggest everyone has on a site, so someone knows exactly where they're at on the site, whether they're traversing through it and going deeper and deeper. Utilizing that will give you the opportunity, and it doesn't pop all the time, I've noticed, but it does quite a lot, especially on these product sites that have categories and child pages. This gives you the chance, if you're not going to win that click for the main listing, you may entice them with internal child pages. So I'm searching for air conditioners. Maybe I don't want to buy an air conditioner from Walmart, but it just grabbed my eye. They have window air conditioners or portable air conditioners or LG air conditioners. So I call it the second, third, and fourth opportunity. So structured data for your job postings. This is great because gone are the days of just having a job posting out on your site. You know, over the years, we've had the ability now to post jobs on Indeed, Glassdoor, and LinkedIn. But what would be better is if they came straight to your site, because if they're coming straight to your site, now they're just a click away from learning about the About Us, the mission, the culture of the company, and giving them a full experience about who your company is. Now with Google Jobs, this rich section, they will pull from those other sites, but if you have this markup across your site, they will pull your site into it. I thought I had an example there. So yeah, we have an example here. This is them pulling from LinkedIn, Glassdoor, for a few different jobs. They go searching for developers, you know what I mean? You have Hallmark here, UniFirst Corporation. That's actually sending people straight to the site because they have it marked up. It's not relying on that post on LinkedIn or Indeed. And what's good is when you provide the markup, you're going to have a better, more aesthetic presence. A lot of times you'll see people don't have logos on their pages and it'll pull just random, blank boxes. So a more professional approach. So where schema is headed next. How-to schema has been out for quite a while now. There's a newer schema that's out. It is frequently asked questions and Q&A. There's a lot of rules around this on how you, I'm going to use an example in a second, of how you have to utilize the markup structure here. But this is great because we're going to get to the reason why this is going to be big or is already getting big. But it's great because in standard search results, instead of just having a regular organic listing, you can see the example here. It'll go down to specific steps. So I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm in the garage and I can't figure something out that I'm working on. You know, I may be 4 steps in the process and I'm just stuck. So I could search something and I might skip those first couple items, but I can actually go down and find answers and questions that are similar to the spot that I'm stuck in right now. So it's really cool, but like I said, there's a lot of rules in how you have to do this. So I'm using the how-to one as an example. First things first, like I talked about, we have to be helpful, we have to be resourceful. So scratch the first thing. Don't think about selling a product to someone if you're trying to provide how-to resource information. Take advertising off your mind. You also have to have a structured markup for steps. So instead of just having a paragraph of how to do something, have actual steps laid out, and then you're going to be having schema markup on each one of those. You also have to have a final image as well. So some rules, the same applies to question and answer sites. There has to be answers. There's different markup if it's user-generated answers as well. So voice search, that's the reason why this is going to be so big. It's getting that high. Look at the numbers there. By 2020, which is this next year, 50% of all searches are going to be voice searches. And we have to think about this. It's not simply people going out and using a Google Assistant or an Alexa, something like that. We have to think about people, using that the voice button from Google Search if they're on their phone or even on a desktop. But very interesting. 19% of people use Siri at least once a day. 44% of adults using on a daily basis. So voice search is huge. I had one slide that I forgot to put in here, but there is a beta version of a new structured data out there now called Speakable. And so what you can do is you can find the text of a page that you feel best fits audio playback using text-to-speech, and you can wrap your schema around that. Now the bad part of this is, unless you guys have valid news sites that you run, it's only available to news sites. So if you're using a Google Assistant and you ask about a certain news genre or topic, it will feed you results based on the speakable markup that they're utilizing now. So while it's limited to us that don't have news sites right now, it's pretty darn cool though, because I think that's going to roll out to the rest of the sites out there as voice search becomes more dominant. So, pretending that we are going out and we're going to start creating our own schema structured data markup without the use of plugins in WordPress, we can start utilizing these cool tools that I was talking about a little bit ago, provided by Google. Now, Bing has a markup validator. I think that's a helper. Within Bing Webmaster Tools, they have a validator, but this helper tool is great. So, for example, we're going to walk in here and we're going to go do one of those job postings that we were talking about, that type of structured data. And I've got our account executive position here that we want to go out to tag. Now, if you have a site that has, in this example, a whole lot of job postings, it would be painful to manually structure this markup. So we definitely, you have to think about that. It's going to be a more robust integration if you want to do this across a whole site. And we touch on that a little bit as we relate to the plugins in WordPress. So let's start marking up our content. So I said earlier, it's painfully easy, provided by Google, if we're not really coders. And honestly, I'm more of a marketer than a coder, so I kind of like this type of thing. But we can load this page as account executive position, and I can highlight the account executive title, mark it as title. Now it's starting to show me what my progress so far on this page. I can highlight the description of the position, and it's going to place that over there as well. One great thing about this tool is Google's showing you the kind of content you should have on that page that you don't have on that page. So once again, throwing our company under the bus, we realize that we're kind of vague in how we provide our positions because Google has schema over here for base salary, date posted, the job location that they would actually have to, the employee would have to work in. So utilizing a tool like this helps you mark your current content up. It starts getting the wheels going of, hey, we're kind of missing some stuff on our pages here. So once we've created this markup, we can move on to creating the JSON LD markup of what we just highlighted. So like I said, you don't necessarily have to be a developer to go out and create this tagging. They're creating for you, which is the great thing about it. A second example. So we did job posting. Let's go out and do event structured data markup. And we're actually conveniently going to use today's schedule. So here we have multiple events. And I'm starting to highlight this. And what the good thing about this is, if I screw up, they're going to let me know. So I did screw up. I was coming through here, and I wanted to pick the day. So you can see where I put Tuesday, where it says day, because I thought Tuesday's a day. Well, actually, right under that, when I pick 11, that's what they're considering the day to be. So if you goof up, they're going to give you the yellow icon there, and that helps you know we need to revise this before we have to run through a validator and we're all the way completely done and have to go back to the drawing board. So that's the markup helper tool. Now we move on to the testing tool. So we've created all of the structured data markup. We've got on our site. We're excited. Now we're going to run through the tool and see if it is valid. So this is a very random example that I use of Jack likes beef jerky from Target.com. I don't know who would buy beef jerky online. But I thought, what the hell, let's use it for an example. So we were running this through the validator. And if you were to go out and search Jack Link's 8-ounce mega pack, you will actually see that it does provide the product offer schema. And it's worth saying that you can run a page through the testing tool that has errors in it that will be shown, and you can still have a rich result pop up. Like I was saying earlier, if you go down the road of having a lot of errors, then you're not going to have a rich result showing up. So we put the link in here. We want to run a test. They scrape through the code, and they're telling me, even though I know from a search that they have product structured data markup, they actually utilize the breadcrumb too. So the good thing for them is they have no warnings, no errors, but in the product area, they have quite a bit. So there's multiple products on that page. There's the main beef jerky, but there's also the similar products that they have. So we have different sets of products schema, and they all have errors. Clicking into one of those, we can see we have our product as the type, and then all those different properties. So ratings, descriptions, things like that. But when we move down the page, we see that we have missing areas. So we don't have a SKU. Maybe we don't have reviews on that page. So we might get errors or warnings saying that we should have a certain type on there, or we might have a warning saying, you're not going to have a rich result unless you have this. So a really great tool, and it's one of those things that you wouldn't run every one of your product pages through there. You just know that if you're screwing it up on this page, Target's probably got the same problem across all of their other pages in the products area. So schema deployment in WordPress. So I took a look. I wanted to grab a snapshot of the most common schema structured data markup plugins that are out there. And there's probably about 5 that are really popular, and these are the top 3, I would say. I was going to walk through a couple of these, and as I said, there's no such thing as a free lunch. That is the way it is, because as we walk into the first one here, for the free part of the plugin, they will give you some functionality, but you definitely want to buy your way into really opening up what these plugins can do. So with the free version of the schema plugin, we have the ability to enrich our knowledge graph potential. So remember when we were talking about a branded search and having that huge card on the side that let people know a lot of information about our company before they even actually come into the site? We have the ability here to go into, set this as an organization, provide the name, the URL, actually wrap schema around the logo so that can show up. So that's a nice thing that they provide here for free, as well as the ability to set that site link search box integration that I was talking about earlier. But we can see outside of that, really, unless we have a blog or an article site, we're not doing too much with schema, unless we spend $99 a year, which isn't too bad because it opens up all these different other schema opportunities for us. The next one, schema all-in-one rich snippets, which they need to change to rich results now since that's the name of it. This was good. If you have a site with a few products that you want to manually go in and provide your item types, the name, image, and the price, But of course, if you have several products, this would be kind of painful. So small sites, I think it's not that bad. If you move up to $79 a year through Schema Pro, that's when you have the ability to run the schema across your entire product category. So like I was saying earlier, if you have a large site, you can't go the manual way. You've got to do something to utilize a plugin or to make it a little easier on you to format across the site. And then Schema App is the third one that I want to talk about. This one is similar to the first we talked about. So it will help you in creating a richer knowledge graph card, but not a whole lot past that. The search box schema, again, just like we saw in the first one, you can integrate that. An extra of this one is that you can also set up your breadcrumb schema, so we can get those the second, third, and fourth opportunity that I was mentioning. However, with this app, this is great for what I call like an enterprise usage. Very, very robust plugin. It's pricier, so it's not $99 or $79 a year, it's $30 at least a month in the smallest plan. But this is a great platform, I feel, a great plugin for you to scale with the site, because they give you a lot of different schema opportunities for properties, and then also just a plethora of other recommended properties that you can use. Much like the helper tool that we were walking through a little bit ago, this is cool too, because you can actually go in and start highlighting your content like the Google tool is helping us do. A good thing with all of these tools, at least two of them, once you've created this markup, before you're putting this out on the site in draft mode, they will have a link right there to go out to Google to do the test of it, just to make sure everything's flying all right before you deploy it. So now we deployed our structured data markup. Now the fun part, we get to monitor it. We get to see how well it performs, or how well it's not performing, and what issues may be happening on certain pages without continually going out and testing different pages of the site. So within Google Search Console, we walk over here to the performance section, and instead of simply going, typically when you're in Google Search Console, you're going over the queries and the pages to look at how keywords are ranking, what pages are ranking, what content's ranking. But here we're going to go down to search appearance over here on the site. And this is going to tell us, depending on how many different types of structured data we have, the exact type of search. So for this is the event site. That's an event site here in Kansas City. And we can see over time, when we have 12 months here, we can see how many clicks we've received and how many impressions. And it's nice because I think we go back to 16 to 18 months with this. We can see the trend over time. And what's nice for us is it's going up, so we can tell that it's being used more and more. But one way that you can help identify issues that might be happening is if once you take the next step, there we go, we take the next step and we drill into it and we go to actual pages. Like this example here, it's just queries. We can actually hone in on the exact keywords that are driving those rich results for us. But what I like to do is go and look at the pages, because I can hone in on a certain page that has quite a bit of rich results, or did have quite a bit. And if I look up there and I see that downtrending trend, now I can say, okay, something's going on with this. That's the exact page that I'm going to take over to that testing tool. I'm going to run through there to see if we're pinging a bunch of errors or warnings. We can fix that and then send our trend line back up. So where do you sit now? Looking at, a little bit ago we were going through the validating tool. Google in beta is rolling out a new version of this. I personally don't like it that much yet. I think it's going to be in beta for a bit. I can't get it to work as well as the other tool that's in existence. But what's good about this tool, when it fully rolls out, you want to go check your site. Maybe you're walking into a company where you're a webmaster and you don't know if there are current types of schema out there. It gives you a chance to look at the site, but also lets you know if there's loading issues. So it's like taking Google Search Console and how they look at the errors that you have on your site and pairing it with a schema validator. So like I said, I'm not too happy with this yet, but it'll be cool when it starts working around. Another thing I wanted to add here was an asset that's out there, a resource. One of those plugin companies, Schema App, has this set of 60 different resources you can use. So this could be in the creation or the testing of your plugins. And I will say that they try to promote their stuff a lot too, and there's a lot of other good resources out there as well. And that's all I have. Any questions, guys?
Do you get penalized if you don't have all the data in your schema markup in the pages, or is it just for like incorrect markup that you get?
So one of those slides, I know I have extremely text-heavy slides. I wasn't like Corey with the dog pictures this morning. One of those slides talks about, I think it was completeness was one of those. So let's say in product and offer schema type, they'll have 50 things that you can provide in there, but there are a few that you have to have. Like you need to have that price. There will be times where a site may not be utilizing schema markup, but still have a rich result because it's a Walmart type of site. If Google can understand well enough the content of that page, they'll go ahead and put that rich result out there. But yeah, it's one of those things that you want to walk in there and you want to have error-free markup, but you want to use as many of those properties as you can to give them a full, clear picture about what your content's about. Anybody else? Back here.
So have you ever run into any like performance issues? Say you have an e-commerce site and you've got a listing page and you're marking every product up, and all of a sudden now on a mobile device that becomes a kind of a large chunk of content moving back and forth. Have you ever
You're saying like the total composition of the code because we've added so much markup?
Yeah. So
since it's more of a notation versus having a bunch of bloated, the problem I see with an e-commerce site is there are so many references and call-ups that they're making that's where the drag is. Me providing notation and Spain tags of what that content's about, that's not really dragging it down.
so there's two types. You can mark up your HTML, but then you provide that JSON
Yeah.
markup. That seems like it's another layer of content.
Yeah,
So
so it's the either or.
it's either or.
Yeah. So the reason why I was showing the microdata before was for someone who's not that familiar with schema, that's an easy way to really see exactly what the type was in the property. And that's kind of the more dated version. But as of 2015, 2017, I can't remember from my slide, that's when Google said the preferred format is the JSON LD.
So then does that double your content on the page then? So you've got that up in the header or something, and then you've got your actual description below?
You're adding extra, but like you're just using the JSON LD, not the microdata. Yeah, you are having extra notation, but that's fine. Like I was saying, any e-commerce site out there, the last worry I would have is having extra notation. It's going to be more on the size of the images that are bloating it, all the different call-ups, a lot of stuff that Mike Black was talking about a little bit ago. So you're helping that page more with that markup than you are with potentially adding a little bit more code.
Okay.
In my conclusion. Anybody else?
I have this dream of doing schema markup using our custom fields and existing fields and replacing variables. Is that doable?
Well, that's a little too developer-y for me. I'm not sure on that one. You've got me stupid.
Do you use a plugin on your sites, or do you do it?
Use plugins if it is across a large variety of pages, like I was mentioning. If it's something like, what's a good example? So I know we haven't done the job postings on our site, and we need to, but we typically will have 3 or 4 job positions out there at a time. That's something that I won't go bug a developer, hey, you need to build this out for us. I can just go out there, make the markup, and deploy it through the site. Anyone else? We're all scheming out? All right. Well, thank you, guys.